Got to start over. Sorry. Hi, it's Dan Boul. It's Wednesday, October 10th, and I'm coming here from my desk in North Hollywood, California, and I'm very excited to show you my new 6L6 amp that we need to name, and hopefully you guys can help me today. Even if you're watching the recording, please let me know. I'm on Facebook, and you can write me a note to Dan at 65amps.com. We have a technical difficulty today that it's the chat window is not working on Ustream today. So I'm going back and forth between computers. People are over on Facebook, which if you're just logging into the show, feel free to instant message me on Facebook. I'll try to get to your question. I have two computers. I just had to restart the show because I clicked the wrong computer to look at ads, messages. So anyway, I'm going to do my best, and we're going to have fun either way, I think. So let me move this amp head a little bit. Get it a little more on camera. So you can see it a little better. And hi, Alexander Lindbeck. Hey, Dan, I just bought my first 65. Yay. Thank you, Alexander. Got a Tupelo from Arna, recording my band's new album with it. Sounds great. Thank you, sir. Tusen tak. So for you Norwegian guys that are on here, and I already see a few of you logged in over here on Facebook, our good friend Lars Haugen, Lars Hovard Haugen. If I could say it with a good Norwegian accent, Lars Hovard Haugen. I can't do it very well. Spent 2 whole afternoons with us going major tweak on this, so you'll probably see this out with the Hellbillies and The Truth, his solo band. So I'm just kind of warming up, by the way. So what's going on at 65? Well, a lot of you guys know I had a really good trip down to Puerto Rico last week. It went fantastic, way above expectations. I can't talk about most of the stuff that happened there because it's a lot of things that need to remain private for now. But this microphone's getting a lot of P's, isn't it? I need a pop filter. But it went great. Way better than I expected. And I really wish the chat window was open because I would love to talk to all of you guys about this. I know I love watching the stream of comments come by. They live, we sleep. Thomas Treen, all these people. It's getting a lot of something lighter than Nemesis. Hey, Tora! Cheers from Norway. Oh, thanks, man. Is that my Tora that I know? I don't know your last name, unfortunately. A different Tora. Thank you, guys. Norway's so good to us. What do you got here, Joe? Trying to think of subtly calls out your feeling about 6L6, something lighter than Nemesis. You know, the 6L6 dilemma for me is interesting because I listen to other people play 6L6s and I really like them. And it's just my personal style. It doesn't lend itself to 6L6s for one reason mainly is that I'm a distortion guy. So I mean, like, this amp gets great, you know. Really really good distortion. So that's what I wanted to overcome before I did a 6L6 thing. And Fonzarelli says, call it the Americano. Meaty. Yeah, it is very meaty. All right, let's see if I can get some of these messages over here. This is going to be kludgy today. They live, we sleep. McSex Stooges 5 in the house. Just got my London Pro. Hey, I'll ride on. 112 yesterday. Had to sell my other one. Oh, cool. Well, welcome to our Slapdash Town Hall meeting today. I apologize for the crudity of it, but I'm just trying to do my best. It became apparent at about 11:15 that the chat window wasn't working. I tried reconnecting several times, and it's not. And I believe I've paid my bill with Ustream, otherwise you wouldn't be able to watch me right now. So I don't know what's going on. So that's a Telecaster through 6L6s. It doesn't really sound as you would expect, does it? You know, my big problem with 6L6s, as I was mentioning before. Hi, Rob. What do you got here? I like the Americana. The Americana, the Americano. It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad theme, actually. So the big change in this amp over most 6L6 amps that you've ever seen is that I'm doing this, you know, high current, low voltage paradigm that I'm getting really, really happy with. So the tubes are running very low voltage, but extremely high current. And tubes love current and hate voltage. The only problem there is to create a lot of current, you have to create a lot of money first. And that is the big hurdle. Most transformer companies don't make transformers that are high current. It's really unusual. It's really low current. And if you guys, for those of you out here that know Ohm's law, which is the laws of physics pertaining to electricity, let's see what we got here. Dave Baldwin. Yeah, cool, Dave. When you decrease the voltage on a tube, you have to increase the current. It's a similar dynamic to water. If there's less pressure on it, then you have to supply more water to get it to come out of the hose. Just like, you know, the little power washers, it's a little bit of water coming out at ultra high pressure. But for your garden hose, it's low pressure, so there's a lot more water that has to come out. Otherwise, it's just half of its air. It won't be full. You won't fill the hose. So electricity has a lot of similar dynamics like that. And you know, for decades, people just upped the voltage on the tubes to make them louder, which is fine. It's great when you had good tubes. So, which pertains to my trip to Puerto Rico. But it became evident to me a couple years ago. You know, we keep pretty strict records here about the tubes that we buy, and Miles Rose tests them all for us, and we keep a spreadsheet. And so after a couple of years of doing that, I said, hey, let me do a little analysis on that and just see. And the trend was very clear. The tubes were just getting worse and worse, and they were becoming more fragile in terms of voltage. We released a couple of amps, as a matter of fact, that were based on the spec the manufacturer sent us of its capabilities. You know, some tubes you can run over their spec and they're happy, like a 6V6 or an EL84 are really happy above their spec. They're pretty rugged little tubes. But the larger tubes, especially the KT family, they just don't take voltage at all. It just doesn't work. And you look at a tube like a KT88, on the spec sheet, it says it can take 800 volts. We were blowing them up at 450. And the manufacturer said, well, it must be your fault. It must be, you're doing something wrong in your amp. And we would read them all the specs, and they go, nah, it can't be right. those specs can't be right. So it's kind of a dead-end street when you get into a conversation like that, when you know you're doing something correct and safe and it's fine. And the tubes just don't live up to the definition of what they are. A KT88 can take 800 volts on the plate and 700 on the screen and, you know, blah, 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 and couldn't do 2/3 of that. You know, the Rocket 88 is one, for example, that hey, Mercedes Burton. Hey, from Holland, watching the show right now. I've been contemplating my second 65 amps purchase after the Elvis. And as a fan of the 5F68 Bassman, I'm curious about your new 6L6 amp. Well, yeah, okay, we'll talk about that. Let me get to you shortly here, Merkea. Or is it Merkea? Merkea? I don't want to mispronounce your name. I'm sorry. When you have manufacturers that they don't care if their products live up to the definition of what they are. You know, 12AX7 is defined as a tube that has these characteristics, and none of the modern ones do. It's kind of hard to argue because you don't have any other choice. So it became evident to me that there's a few axioms always thrown around in the tube amp business, one of which is tubes love current and hate voltage. So I saw a lot of guys making amps just at lower voltage, but they didn't up the current. So they didn't sound that great. I mean, I'm trying to be diplomatic. I wasn't blown away with the sound. The tube life was greatly extended, but you kind of lost some vocabulary, you lost some dynamics and touch. So I started out just buying a couple of transformers that were the highest current I could find, and using our master voltage, cutting the voltage down on it, and I got some really good results, like really nice stuff. And oh, cool, Tora, I see your message here. Yeah. Right on. I'm glad that worked out for you. And so, we worked with the guys at The Seducer. I like it. That's funny. I just totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Anyway, doing it this way is nice. So the big surprise was, the first one we did like this was the Producer that has EL34s in it. And this is the same power transformer that amp has. And so it's, hey, Carlo. Well, I'll get into that. Carlo asked a great question here, and I know I'm kind of being scattered today. What is the problem with modern tubes? Is it the construction, the material being used, or the machines? What makes NOS better? Well, the short answer, Carlo, is all of those things. But with the Producer on EL34s, you think of EL34s as excellent distortion and sort of just okay clean sound. So it's always been that trade-off. When we did the low voltage, high current thing with an EL34, all of a sudden I was like, wow, listen to that clean sound. It's amazing, And with 6L6s, it was the reverse. You expect great clean sound from 6L6s, but kind of ratty distortion that's maybe a little second rate, a little messy. So guys like me that are focused on British amps, my ears tend to lean towards British amps really hard. And EL34s and EL84s tend to distort in a little more musical way than a 6V6 or a 6L6. It's not night and day, but it's just a little better. You get used to it. And at low voltage and high current, the distortion on a 6L6 is fantastic. I'll hook up a Strat and a Les Paul here before we're done and show you. But also the big thing that I noticed was that the amp wasn't that picky about tubes when you do this. Cheaper tubes sound good. And the cheaper tubes are what's readily available for everybody. So if you're out on the road, you're playing a gig, your amp blows up, you go into a music store, they're going to have some kind of tube. that'll work and sound pretty good. You know, when I do put NOS tubes in this amp, it does sound better. But with this low voltage stress on the tube, it doesn't seem to give up as fast. A little echo on that just for fun. A little more echo to make it more noticeable. Oh, first off, big shout out to Voodoo Labs. They watched me doing my show with an old Pedal Power, and they sent me the Pedal Power Digital, which I don't know if you can see that. There we go. The Pedal Power Digital, that it's a lot higher current version, so I can run all 3 Strymon pedals off of it. I used to have an adapter also, so thanks to James Santiago over at Voodoo for doing that. I appreciate it, buddy. You know, David Hayes is on here, which if you've ever seen Hayes Amplification, I think he's the guy to go to for Fender reproductions. He makes better Fenders than Fender did. This really isn't a Fender. It has some Fender behaviors in it, but it's not a Fender. You know, it's a little different type of offering. So David, I'm sure you can tell people as well. You probably have this conversation quite a bit. How tubes are really delicate and really finicky, and you really got to buy a lot more tubes than you need to end up with a good pair that not only will bias up correctly, but will stay similarly biased for more than a day. You know, that's why I do a lot of my amps with cathode bias, just because it auto adjusts, because I've found with grid biasing stuff in modern day that it just drifts. The amp will drift every week, and you got to rebias it a lot to get that sweet sound of a correctly biased amp. But one of the things too that I want to talk about is we had to do a price increase that I've been holding off on for 3 years. I always do a nominal price increase every year, but what's happened in the past 4 years, ever since the crash, basically, the supply chain involved with making musical instruments has gotten broke. Everybody's broke. I'm broke. My suppliers are broke. They have less customers. I play sad music. But over the past 4 years, my wholesale costs have gone up on average 63-64%. On some items, it's gone up 200%. My cabinets are more expensive. My speakers are more expensive. My transformers are significantly more expensive because of the price of copper. I use really premium grade copper in my Mercury transformers and my ones from Magnetic Components because it sounds better and it performs better. Copper, the price of copper has gone up 7-fold since the crash. It makes it very difficult for transformer manufacturers to make good products. A lot of them have just downgraded the copper that they offer so they can keep their prices stable, but I chose not to do that. It's very difficult dynamic. So you'll see on some of our amps, a lot of our older amps, most noticeably the Elvis and the Tupelo, have gone up a few $100 retail. Our website's not updated yet, but you'll see it. And that's going to be our pricing through all of next year. And so on a personal level, I feel horrible about it. I'm deadly sorry. I just want to make it clear that it's not greed. On some of these amps, after I took out the overhead of running the business, I wasn't making any money at all. I was just kind of breaking even. Or I was making $100, which isn't really worth it. Oh, good question here, Fonzarelli. I'll answer that too. So there's two good questions here I want to get to. Dan to you, Dan to customer, I'm really sorry. I don't have a choice. I would love to be able to keep my pricing down. I beat up my vendors as hard as I can for the best pricing I can get, and in many cases I'm getting much better pricing than other people are because we build enough amps to have a little leverage that way. I don't think my vendors are trying to screw me. I think they're all in the same boat I am. They've been trying to hold down pricing for years because it's dangerous to raise prices. Some of our amps aren't going up. I mean, the producer's not going up. The Empire went up $100 or something. The Redline stuff had to go up. The Ventura had to go up. My wholesale cost of building that amp almost doubled in the time that I designed it. So on that particular amp, I'm still going to take a really humble profit on it, but it's so popular I tried to keep it down, but it's going to go up a few $100s. It's still an affordable amp. I mean, and to be honest with you, our Redline stuff is made as good or better than any other boutique amp in the world. The only difference in that amp, it's the same exact build, same exact guys, everything. The only difference in that amp is that I have machine wound transformers in it instead of hand wound. That's what saves you the money. Transformers are by far the most expensive thing in the amp. And the cabinet's a little simpler on it. It's the same speakers, it's the same Sozo caps, it's the same Allen Bradley resistors, it's the same tubes, everything. It's not... You look at 99% of boutique amps, and there's a few exceptions. Guys like David Hayes here uses premium components. So does George Metropolis. So does Fred Tacone at Divided by 13. You know, there's a lot of good guys. Joe Morgan uses really good parts. But you look at most of them, they're just Chinese kit parts. What you're paying for is maybe a cute cabinet and some guy's handwork. But you know, you're making it out of just average parts. It's an average amp. So even our Redline stuff would be considered top tier gear. It's not like a bargain cheap amp or anything. I just wanted to make the best that I could and try to make it more affordable. But you know, amps like our London 212 combo and the old Soho 212 combo, those had to go up a lot. I mean, the cabinets, I can give you an example. Like, for example, the output transformer that is in the London and the Soho is the same one. When I first started making the London, that output transformer from a few other manufacturers was like $35. From Mercury Magnetics, it was $80. Today, that output transformer is almost $130. 4 years later. So, you know, that adds up. That's just one example. I mean, every part, some of the caps that I use used to cost 60 cents. Now they cost $1.50. There's a lot of capacitors in an amplifier. My cabinets have almost all doubled. For a couple of reasons, one of which is the wood is Baltic birch, so it comes from Russia. And the dollar is now toilet paper. So the exchange rate is not very favorable to us, unfortunately. And there's also been some messy winters in Russia lately, and it's very expensive for them to go deep into the woods and cut that stuff down, and it's affecting the market on Baltic birch. So anyway, I'm really sorry. It really gives me a lot of pain to tell you this because I've been holding off. We tried to become more efficient. You know, we've learned a lot about being efficient in the past few years, which is one of the reasons we're still in business. But this kind of dynamic is why you see so many boutique amp companies come and go. Because a lot of guys get into it and, you know, you're making a couple amps a week. It's fun. It's cool. You're the labor, so it doesn't matter. You know, we're to the point now where we're a California S corporation. We pay taxes. You know, I've got people on payroll. I have an attorney. I have to buy business insurance. I have to, you know, all the overhead of running a business. And with as much money as we do through the door, I have to stay really straight with the State Board of Equalization, State of California, City of Los Angeles, sales tax people, of course the IRS, and it gets expensive to run a business real quick, and which is why you see a lot of these little guys come and go. So, we've got several thousand amps in the field right now, and I want to be around. I want to support you. I want to be able to do this show. I want to be able to do all these other things. The only way I can do that is if I can make a little bit of profit on stuff. So I'm so sorry. That was one of the confusing things when I started this business too, is why do these guys, they're in business for 2 or 3 years and then they're gone. And it became apparent. It's an expensive business to make boutique stuff. And people have it in their mind that an amp should cost $1,000 and a boutique amp should just cost a little bit more than that. But that's not the case. And you look at any industry, you look at something like cars, a lot of the amps that you see out there now would be the equivalent of a Kia. It has a lot of features on it. Got a warranty on it. Looks okay. It costs $22,000. You want to buy a nice handmade car, it costs $200,000. And it performs significantly better. That's kind of where we are. I'm not going to charge $200,000 for amps. I wish I could. I'd sell one a year if I did. Anybody wants to buy a $200,000 amplifier, let me know. I'll make you whatever you want. Any amount of features you like, I'll make it for you. So anyway, I'll quit ranting about that. It just is what it is. To make proper amplifiers costs money, and I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I genuinely feel bad about having to deliver this news. So, 2 things. Run out and buy amps from your dealer right now. So they're going up. The good news is we're going to start offering a lot more on our Redline. I'm going to offer a Redline Soho, a Redline Tupelo and Elvis, a Redline Monterey, and maybe a Redline Empire as well. So the amps that went up the most, I'm going to offer those in a Redline too, and they're going to be the same amp. It's just the transformers are going to be machine wound, and that'll save you a lot of money. That'll save you a ton of money. So let's get to some of these good questions here, and then I'm going to play some guitar. I know a lot of guys tune in to hear me play guitar, and I sit around and talk, so I'm sorry about that. Good question. First one was, where did it go? Is it Carlo, I believe. We got a lot of people on here. What is the problem with modern tubes? Is it construction, material being used, or machines? What makes NOS better? Well, Carlo, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. All tubes being produced today are made on 40 to 60-year-old machinery that's worn out. And they're... What does this say? Dave Anderson says TMI. Thank you, Dave. Dave Anderson says, Dan, TMI. I don't think you have to go into such detail about component pricing. Just say that they've gone up considerably, and you can't sacrifice the quality. It's just economics. I agree with you, Dave. What you're seeing from me is guilt. You're right. It's just more expensive to make the amps now, and if I can't make a profit, I can't. It's not worth doing. I got to feed my children. So, thank you, David Law. You're correct. You're absolutely correct. So back to tubes. Back in the day, tubes were state-of-the-art technology. And it's just not anymore, so no one made any new machinery. So, when Mullard and Telefunken and General Electric and RCA and Tungsol and all these people were making tubes, they would rebuild their machinery regularly. They would replace it every 5 to 8 years with newer, better machines because they wore out. And that hasn't happened since the 60s. The machinery that everyone uses now is old machinery that's been refurbed, it's been maintained, but it doesn't work near as well as new, sophisticated machinery. It's also ancient technology. The tubes are being made on. When you look at films of old tube factories, it looks like something out of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. It's big hydraulic machines stamping things out, and so now, for example, things are made on old Soviet machinery. That's the big supply of tubes is made on old Soviet stuff. And they work. I mean, they're good. They're not great. They're not nearly as rugged as old tubes were. And all modern tubes sound a little bit lacking, compared to old tubes. But there's three things in a tube that are crucial, one of which is to have a clean cathode, which modern cathodes are nothing compared to old cathodes. You have to have perfectly, spaced and tensioned grid windings inside the tube, which they're not anymore. They're very inconsistent. And you have to pump an excellent clean vacuum in the tube, which they're not. The vacuum on modern tubes is about half the vacuum of old tubes. So those things are the three crucial elements of building a tube correctly, and modern tubes don't have any of those. And the cathodes are not clean. That's why you hear a lot of in tubes. The grid windings are inconsistent. That's why you see strange readings on tubes, strange gain readings, strange transconductance readings, all these sorts of things. And the vacuum is pretty weak. So the tube is operating without, the vacuum needs to be hard enough that it's a sterile, pure environment. Electrons, if there's any oxygen or gas in there at all, then the electrons don't flow freely. And that's why you get a tube that kind of sounds like this, is because it doesn't have a hard vacuum in it. And the higher voltage you run on the tubes, the more these frailties are accentuated, because, again, voltage is just the pressure on the electricity. It's the velocity at which the electricity is being driven through the tube. And so if you have a gassy, dirty environment with inconsistent grid windings, and the electrons are emanating from a cathode that's impure, the cathode's the negative side of the tube, has a coating on it, and we heat it up with the filaments, and the electrons are released. And when the cathode isn't pure, then you combine all that, you get some pretty poor behavior. So, Carlo, that's a long answer to your question. Let's see, we got another question coming up here. I'm going to switch guitars here in a second. That's good. McSex Stooges 5. He says, maybe L Slick. I think Earl will want one right away if I do that. So the other question I want to get to is Mr. Fonzarelli. Can you cathode bias a 100-watt amp? None seem to be. You can't. I mean, technically you can pull it off. Cathode bias is good up to about 40 watts. And then the circuit itself doesn't have enough power to control the bias. I could do a dual biased 100-watter, two pairs that are each cathode bias. Cathode bias is a little less efficient, even though I think it sounds clearly better. There's a lot more harmonic content in cathode bias. You get a lot more detail out of it. But you lose. You lose a lot of detail. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. I want to play some guitar now. Let me switch over to a Les Paul really quick. So, yeah, I hope, does that answer your question, Fonzarelli? It's more articulate 2 years. That's correct. Cathode bias is more articulate. That's why an AC30 is one of those things you see guys like Brian May and, Mike Campbell, etc. That's why they go for that stuff, because they play a very articulate style. Grid biased amps will sound a little, they'll respond a little faster. So if you're a shredder, that might not be what you want. A lot of people want to believe they're shredders, but most people aren't going to be hindered by a cathode bias amp. Maybe you aspire to be a shredder, but you're a blues man. That's right. Cathode bias is definitely more expressive, you know. Let's turn this down just a little bit. We'll do it without the echo. You just get a sense of what the amp is like. So that's the clean sound. Hit the bump on this side. So that's that good American blues sound. I think that's really nice, you know, sort of 60s blues. It's also, you know, if you're a rock and roll guy, it's the Stones. That's their sound. You know, early American stuff. Early American rock and roll. They still sound like that now. So even if you're one of those guys that wants to go... You know that thing? You know, 60s Clapton, Blues Breakers things. Even though he was playing on a Marshall, that was such an early Marshall that it's really close to a... The one he was playing was a KT66 JTM45, which is really, really a bassman, you know, close to a bassman, of course, with, you know, British components and European tubes, but it acts a lot like a bassman, which is what he plays now. He plays, you know, low-powered twins and bassmans. I'm still on the American side here, just got the bump on. You can see a little red light on the screen. Go over to the bridge pickup. You're gonna miss me. That kind of thing. The middle position, you can get your Freddie King. Go on the neck, pick up and push it. You got the Clapton version of it. So, you know, it's a similar vibe. That's what Clapton was going for in the beginning. He wanted that sort of American amp cranked up sound. He wasn't a dedicated Marshall guy then. His first amp was a low-powered twin. So I'm still, that's the American side bumped, right? Like... I'll go over here to the dirt side, and you've got, you know, humbucker meat. That doesn't sound like 6L6s, does it, to me? dirty. And it's good, clean. I mean, it's, tidy distortion. It's not a mess like you normally hear out of 6L6s. So if I turn go down to just the rhythm sound on the British side. Oh, I'm out of tune, aren't I? You get good rhythm sound, good British sounding rhythm. Yeah. It's good. I love that sound. Sort of a AC/DC meets Pete Townsend kind of rhythm. Even you can even sort of go Beatley with that kind of textures lightly. Even though my guitar's out of tune, I'm sure you forgive me. So, your sort of Oasis type things, Good British guitar sounds. Out of 6L6s, so we go back over here. This is the boosted American side. I don't know how much the subtleties are coming across on Ustream, but it's a different vibe. Feels different, too. So you can get, even on the American side, a lot of, Who records were recorded on a, whatchamacallit, 57 Bandmaster, or the Gretsch guitar. So, that really calls for a little. I love Townsend's rhythm. It's got that sound. Turn the bump off on this channel, you get the. Yeah, Fonzarelli. I'm just offering this amp in a head. It's too much to put into a combo. With these transformers, it's going to weigh 90 pounds. Trying to go soft. I dig in with my fingernails there, you just hear it sort of light up, yeah. Right there. Very touch sensitive, right? No, Fonzarelli, this does not the one with the Ron Ellis. This is the one with the Tim White humbuckers in it. My yellow one's over on the other side of the shop, and the guys are testing amps with it, and they love it. So I didn't have time to go grab it. That's nice neck pickup sounds, really sensitive. And that's kind of what you want, out of 6L6s. Yeah, these are PAFs. Just answered that. Never mind. Yeah, okay. And Carlo has another question here. How about El Mojo? I don't know. Man, there's a lot of people. Hey, Charles Rivera. Chat is not working. Yes, that's right, Charles. You think you logged in late. We are experiencing chat problems with Ustream for some reason. So I've got 28 windows open here on Facebook, instant message windows. Joe Riggio says, I talked to Leroy Parnell, and he said he doesn't even have any of the Ron Ellis pickups yet. Yeah, that's the ones they're using in the Leroy Parnell edition. He's heard them. He may just not own them yet. Turn that echo off a little bit. Love that neck pickup sound. That's good. Nice miscue there. Put on a little bit of compression. For a Strat. See how it should do. Like I said, this is the first production model of this amp. It has a producer faceplate on it right now because we haven't come up with a name. So maybe I'll start a poll on Facebook. See what we can come up with. I hope this guitar is reasonably in tune. I didn't tune it yet today. Charles, what have you missed? Quite a bit. We've just been talking about the new amp. Talked about my price increases. Talked about tube manufacturing a little bit. Things like that. That left sounded just like old Joe Walsh. Yeah. Joe Walsh is an American sound. So you got some questions popping up over here. Charles. I'm busy trying to start a tube factory with a friend, Yeah, that's right. You can see we're getting some really good performance out of these tubes. But by dropping the voltage and raising the current, which is great for new amps. But what do you do with the 15 million old amps that are out there that can't run new tubes? You like that neck pickup Strat sound, Charles? Yeah, baby. I got a message here from Justin Magana. I'm watching you. Let me know more about this tube thing. Oh, okay. Yes, Justin, and we will talk to you. Absolutely. Joe says, name the new amp, the Performer. That might be good. We got the producer and the performer. Yeah, Charles. Chili Mama. Yeah, I dig this amp. I'm having a lot of fun. So, you know, that's the British rhythm sound. Go over here to the American side. So this amp has all the features that the producer does. You know, it's got the master voltage on it, so you can accommodate your different situations, volume-wise, without losing your tonal palette. It does have a passive effects loop in the back. Out of tune, aren't you? Yes, I'm sitting in my tin can. Which is what I feel like today, since I don't have a proper chat window. I'm not interacting with you guys enough. It feels very prophylactic. Far above the swell, planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do. It sounds like a Strat, though, doesn't it? You know? Let's see, we get a little echo here. Little verb. I need a little more echo, don't we? Yeah, Joe, there's some Beatle action in there, isn't there? If I wanted to do the, let's go over to the British side, turn the bump off. Answer the phone. How's it go? Is that what you're thinking of, Joe? He's a real nowhere man. questions coming up here. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Good suggestion. How about calling the new amp the crossover? Okay, maybe. Charles Rivera. How about the Chili? Yeah, naming after our little dog Chili. Yeah, you kind of got that. You don't expect that from a 6L6, do you? That's the fun part. I hate to sing the Beatles because it's so hard to sound good. Think it's today. Girl, that's driving me. How's it go? She's got a ticket to ride. How's it go? Carried away with the Beatles, sorry. How's it go? Can't remember the lick now, that's crazy. Better than an AC30, bigger, tighter, low end from the 6L6s, but still has great chime. Wow, yeah, that's, when we're feeding these tubes rich AC and not copying circuits, they're really flexible. You can ask the tube to do a lot of things. Yeah. What was the other Beatles song we were playing a minute ago? It'll probably do that pretty well, too. It needs to be more in tune to sound right, but... What else am I thinking of there? If I push it a little harder, let's see. That sort of thing. Good British sound, I think. 6L6s go right back down to... Slap back on there. That's quite a vocabulary in one amp, I think. Wow, lots of people on over here on Facebook. Hey, Paul Ovenstein. Call it the provider. That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. You can go right into sort of sound. After all the jacks and the boxes. You know, the one thing I do like about this Facebook setup is now I see a lot of your faces. I never get to see your faces. That's the one severe weakness in Ustream, I think, is that there's no picture along with the person typing in. Of course, I think we'd all put a picture of like Brad Pitt or Jimmy Page or somebody, right? And at least on this thing that does suck is you can't see the other comments that are coming in. I've got 10, 12, 15 chat windows open over here on Facebook right now. Oh, I know that's you, Paul. I appreciate it. Okay, good question here. So what sort of output would a low voltage, high current EL84 6v6 amp be? Because this and the producer are slightly lower outputs than the 34. Yeah, that's convincing, Hendrix. A pair of EL84s is probably going to go down to about 12 watts. Pair of 6v6 is going to go down to about 15. Likely. Yeah, still be plenty loud. I could do a 4 EL84 amp, which is what I'm thinking. The old Marquee that we did, I'm really thinking about redoing that amp, low voltage, high current, because I love that amp, but it's just kind of loud and aggressive for most people, and we'll update it by putting the master voltage on. But one of my most favorite amps we've made, to be honest. And hang on one sec here. Let me push this a little harder. So whatchamadoodle, a 4 EL84 amp would be down probably around 25 watts, maybe 22. You can get some good Hendrix sounds out of this. I need a little bit of something on there. How'd I do that? More of a second position thing, isn't it? Let's do it over on the British side with the bump off. Oh, that wasn't a clean note at all, was it? Gets very chimey and British over there, doesn't it? Versus a little warmer. You can switch right over to Well, it's getting kind of late here in the old barn house. I know this is odd with the Facebook chat today, but is there any kind of questions you want me to hit or any sort of information about this amp you want to know? Chat is now working. Really? I can't get it. Let's see. Chat. I'm not getting it. Oh, there it is. Chat is working. Hey, what's up, fellers? Awesome. Thanks, Ustream, for screwing up my thing. Sammy Packle. That's a good handle. Gibson Guitar Guy. Cool. Using a buffer. No, I'm not. Yeah, we can keep going if the chat's open. Hi, Martin. Hey, Frank. Good. Hey, Paul. Good to see you guys. It's easier when we can interact more instantly and you guys can see what the other guys are saying. Makes it less of a... maybe it felt more one-on-one and you guys like that? Rock and Roll Willie. No, Gibson Guitar Guy. I'm just going straight to the Strymons. Let's see what's going on here. Charles Rivera. What channel is that one? That sounds great too. I am on the First Voice. I'm on the American side. You can see the green light there. I'm over on the American side with the bump off. So... good sort of funk rock sound. I like that. This mini Strymons can be configured with or without a buffer. Oh, gosh. I don't know, to be honest then. I didn't realize that. I just plug them in and play them. Yes, Joe Riggio, this amp, the preamp on this is all 12AX7s. You are correct, sir. Jump around, Charles. You know it, baby. That's my... So I'm going to do a poll here in a second. We got lots of suggestions about names for the amp. Let me create a little poll here and see what we can come up with. Yeah, reload your page, hit refresh. If you're on hit F5, if you're on a PC, hit view, reload page. Bassface Josh, hey, what's up, buddy? Gotta run, my friend. The new baby sounds awesome. Provider gets my vote, obviously. Okay, Paul, appreciate it. Let's see. Let me put up the poll here and see what we got. Add another answer. What was this? We had Paragon. Let's see. I'll just put a 5 up for right now. Hey, Alexander Lindback. Good to see you over here on a different social media platform. Okay. Here it comes. We'll see what happens. You guys should see that here any second. Oh, I misspelled performer. It's not performer, it's performer. I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses on. Nobody likes Americana. Wow, that's interesting. So Americana and performer seem to be Good question over here. Can this amp run the early 6L6 types of G, GA, and GB? Yeah, totally. This amp's at 290 volts, so it's no problem. Performer is kind of catchy. I like it. Got the producer and the performer. This is an extremely versatile amp, so... None of the above? What do you want, MixX Stooges? We'll do a second poll here. So it looks like performer's winning. Let me stop the poll. I'll redo it. Let's see. Keeps the naming convention. Yeah, no one voted for Americano. That's funny. The Renegade. Nah, that sounds like a... That sounds like a... All right, so we've got... a lot of people don't like California for some reason. And there's also that Saturday Night Live skit. Okay. Let's do this again. One more time, Egnator. It does sound... Yeah, Renegade is kind of one of those cheap imported heavy metal things. The International. The Gamut. All right, here we go. Let's try it again. See what you think. Chat is alive. Yay, Fonzarelli. Performer seems to be the runaway hit here. Can you guys see the poll results as they're going on also? So I get these little bars, you know, I can see. It's like a race of white lines. Sort of like gigging in the 80s, but that's a whole nother conversation. The Engineer. Double agent. Ooh, that's good. Turn that echo off. Gibson guitar guy. I don't know how well I could advertise that amp. Now we have the vulgar names coming. Well, it looks like the performer's sort of the favorite here. Lots of votes. See if it'll give me details. No, it just tells me who's winning. Okay. Cool. The performer is kind of winning by a 2-to-1 margin. It's not bad. I kind of like it. I'm going to think about it for a day. Hey, Bill. Yeah, I like the James Bond girl kind of names. Moneypenny and Goodhead. Pussy Galore. Yeah. I'm trying to stay clean. The Yankee. I don't mind the Yankee either, except people are going to think it's a baseball reference. Anyway, you get the idea. Okay, so the performer. Plenty of tool. to heat that up a little more. I can do it here too, a little just output. Is that better in the fourth position? I think better in the second position. And I can switch over to, let's see, I gotta set the defaults different to do that, yeah. Go back over. I need to heat this channel up just a little more, balance it a little better. I wish I could play like Stevie Ray Vaughan. I never really learned it that much. I was out gigging when Stevie was big, and I just didn't learn it. But that's the sound, the rude mood. Yeah, I wish I knew how to play all that stuff. I really don't. It's embarrassing. I don't. I listened to Stevie Ray Vaughan a lot, but I never learned it. I saw him play in person a lot in the 80s, before he got huge. He used to play in Kansas City a lot when I was a young guy, gigging in Kansas City, and we'd be done or didn't have to go on yet. We'd run over down Westport, down by the river in Kansas City, and Stevie Ray Vaughan was playing in a blues club down there a few times. And I only knew him from when he played on that Bowie record, and then I went and saw his own band. It was good. Damn, it was loud, too. When I saw him, he had a Marshall half-stack, 2 blackface Fenders, and an AC-30. You know, that kind of thing. We need some verb on that, maybe? I just can't do it. Cold shot. Burp down a little bit. You know, from what I understand, until he hit it big and started playing dumbbells, for the most part. Charles, these amp names are hilarious. He just played whatever he could get his hands on. Yeah, it was a hodgepodge. It was like I think there was a Vibroverb and a Pro, something like that. You know, it wasn't like big supers or twins or anything. With an AC-30 and a Marshall, all strung together. It still sounds like him. I mean, that guy could have played through a Silvertone amp and it would have sounded just like him. How's that? Man, that's hard. I can't play like him at all. I wish I could. Rock and Roll Willie says, I used to run around Westport, Kansas City, Missouri all the time. I was there in the early 80s. The de-virginizer. Scuttle button. I just never learned it. Yeah. Something like that. I know I'm just doing that a horrible disservice. El Mocambo. Yeah. I'll have to practice that. Especially since that guy played with 13s. That's why he always had that look on his face. Because he was fighting that guitar. It's good Fender sound though right there, isn't it? Strat, sort of 6L6 thing. I have to get somebody in here that can do Stevie justice. And then he had to super glue his fingernails down. Yeah, I imagine his hands were beat. So that's a Strat, you know, second position on the pickup selector. Oh, you can see it. First position, second position. Did he have big giant frets on the guitar? If I can go right over to the dirty side. It's not in E though, is it? Sort of thing. Too much verb on the dirt. So you can get your sort of... Can you sing? Sort of thing. Those damn guys, they were so young and good and little bastards. Now I'm 47 and just now I just get a noodle. Yeah. That sounds pretty correct though, doesn't it? I mean, tonally, you know, like it sounds like. That's over on the British side, and I go over here to the American side, I get that. Oh, sounds like there's a phone ringing in the background. Both bumps are foot switchable, so you can hit. You got to change the defaults on how you want it to land, so you can make sure that it, you know, where it goes back and forth, that it automatically, when it goes to the second channel, it's bumped or automatically not bumped. You can set the defaults with these two little switches up here on the top. So right now I have it set so that both bumps are on by default. So when I go in between the two channels, but no matter where I am, I can still the other foot switch change the bump. You know, then it's going to change the default. So I can go right over to very... Still Still sounds like a Strat though. What is it? Is that too much dirt? Maybe a little cleaner. Maybe a little echo. Too dirty. Well, that is why you can't hold me down. Stone free. That sort of sound. What other of those classic sort of? There's that's more of a neg pickup thing. Could that maybe be dirtier? Too much, isn't it? Manic depression. Is that right? Am I playing the riff right? Rock and Roll Willie says, looks like channel volumes are both on 5. Yeah, the dirty side is on 5. The cleaner side is on about 5.5. It's a little over 5. Too much echo. It's good sound, though, isn't it? Let's go completely no pedals here. Master voltage is all the way up, Fonz. We're at full voltage now. I can drop the voltage if you want to hear it. The master voltage is on 5. I still have clean sound right here. So the output now is about 12, 13 watts. Up to full. So cleanest setting, Joe, it's a 28 watt amp, so it's going to get pretty loud, pretty clean. As with all of our amps, When it's on 5, it's as loud as it's going to get. It's just going to get dirtier after that. So we're kind of up there. I know there's a lot of distortion that comes through Ustream that's not actually happening. I can hear it in my headphones, and I know it's not going on outside of the speakers, so it's kind of weird. You can get about 118, 119 decibels clean out of this. So if I just roll her back a little bit, let's say down to 4, it's going to be hard to make it dirty. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. Took a lot of work. What song is that? Why is it in my head? What is that? I'm almost there. It's on the tip of my tongue. What is it? Learning to Fly. Oh yeah, it's Tom Petty. I have the rhythm right? Close. I'll have to listen to it. Oh, I know what it is. It's Free. Well, I'm free. Free falling. Free falling, yeah. Well, I'm free. Free falling. Man, who can sing as high as Petty? My God. Well, it's a long day living in Reseda. There's a freeway running through the yard. Yeah. That's the rhythm. I'm doing that falsetto, by the way, Stratocaster Mojo. I don't think I could pull it off on stage. Free falling, yeah. Yeah, it's good Mike Campbell sound right there. Range of the tone knobs? Yeah, sure. That's the treble. Bass. And then over on the dirty side, I get real dirty. So I can go all the way down. This amp's really fresh, so it's a little crispy. It hasn't even been burned in yet. It's a little crispy. They warm up a lot with break-in. Free falling's in F. Wow, that would make it a lot easier. Must be capoed, I bet, isn't it? You think? Do it like a... capo threw my guitar horribly out of tune. I'm free. That's a little easier. Maybe it's just a guitar tune down. Free falling. Yeah, I can almost get into normal human range. Charles Rivera says over on Facebook, when will this amp be ready for sale? It's ready now for late November delivering. So it's on the new stuff, we always do first come, first serve. That pisses me off so much. This is the same price as the producer, which is $36.95. Slight delay on the video, really? Oh, crud. And we can do it, I'll do it down in E, we'll make it easier. 'Cause I'm free. Free falling. Yeah, I can almost hit that natural. Josh always has the good comeback. Yes, you might be a time traveler. Try drop D. Ooh, that does sound good, doesn't it? I'm free. I bet they might have done a drop D tuning for the F, maybe, right? That doesn't work, though. It works great like this. I like that. It sounds kind of mean. Add a capo. Oh yeah, there you go. For drop F. So it'll be up here, right? Oops, capo's on backwards. Maybe that's it. I don't know, I kind of liked it down in drop D. I thought it sounded kind of ugly. Free balling. Oh, Josh. You're funny, dude. Yeah, I was in a Beatles cover band once, and we just decided to do dirty versions of Beatles songs, which I probably shouldn't say on the show because they're just horribly vulgar. Yeah, that would be the name of our dirty, petty tribute band, Free Ballin'. Let me even go cleaner on that. I like that sound a lot. I'm free. Free falling, y'all. free. Sorry, I can be vulgar as I want, I guess. Yeah, kind of wear black and some hiking boots and get a face tattoo or neck tattoo. I'm free. Real stitchy shirt from the mall. Okay, I'll stop. Man, we're almost 2 hours now. You guys digging this amp? Yeah, teardrop tattoo, exactly. Eye patch? Oh, you want me to go like pirate now? You want one? Well, listen, you know, if you guys want to order them and can give me a deposit, I can build them really fast. Because right now we have a ton of business on the board. But I can make these if I build with your money, not with mine. Otherwise, I just got to kind of put you in the queue. This one's actually David Ryan Harris's. It's going out with Sambora and then the Mayor Tour in the spring when John Mayer's back in business. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Dave says, love to the amp. No matter what you name it, it's a winner. Thank you, sir. Louis TM, this is just our regular 212 cabinet. It's got a G12H30 and an Alnico Gold in it. Is that what you wanted, Josh? Well, hey, Lars Haugen is here. Well, it sounds good, Lars, because you helped me. This is the production one. This is good. Oh, down, 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 down. Is that close? So we're on the clean side with the bump off right now. I'm just hitting it hard with the Strat, you know. So yeah, we found some petty sounds in here and we're just kind of noodling around. Now, I guess you could say the meat of the show is over and now we're into the officially screwing around section of the show. Let me turn that compressor off. I kicked it on a second ago. I don't know a lot of petty stuff, but this amp is really making me feel some petty. Yeah, if I had a producer here, I'd A-B it. I don't have one here now. They just go out the door like crazy. We build tons of producers. Go over to the British side and do that. Got a feeling inside. Can't explain. You got one and it sucks? What? What are you talking about, Bill? How are you, Lars Hovard? When are you coming back? I thought you were going to be back like 2 weeks ago. That's over on the British side. Guitars, Cadillacs, hillbilly music, only thing that makes me think. Bill Studio, no, I was not at the, yeah, I have my Elliott P90 here. I was not at the amp show. I was in Puerto Rico working. Yeah, let me get my Elliott P90 here. It's not a stereotypical P90 guitar, but it is definitely P90-ish. These are P90s wound on a Jazzmaster bobbin, so... There you go, little P90. Roll it back a little bit. Yeah, a lot of high gain stuff at the amp show. High gain's easier to do. It's a lot more forgiving. Yeah, I noticed a lot of little 80s things are cropping up right now. Torbro, what caused you to use 12AX7s in this as opposed to ECC 803s? Actually, it is ECC 803s. I just hate explaining the difference. ECC 803 is a long plate 12AX7 that's got a little higher capacity. And these are, in this particular amp, it's 3 ECC 803s. Good question. Seriously, somebody answer the phone. Charles, tell him hi over at Do Gallego. It's my friend Charles on Facebook chat here who took care of me in Puerto Rico, and I went to arguably the best Spanish restaurant I've ever been to in my life. Twice as hard. How does that go? Wow, I can't remember the riff on Twice as Hard. Is that an open G one? That's a slide song, isn't it? I'm a horrible slide player. I am an idiot when it comes to slide. I don't know why. I just can't do it. Here. Trying to feel like I belong. Smell the gasoline burning. 'Cause I'm jealous. That's jealous again. Joe, ECC 803 is it's an old military designation. The ECC 83 is the UK. Jesus, answer the phone. We're busy, guys. Sorry. An ECC stop. It's so annoying. An ECC 83 is the European equivalent, not an 803. 803 is the military high grade version. Got a lot of that in it. It's also got a little bit of... Well, guys, it's Bill Studio asks, what's the best-selling area for the 65 amps generally? Southern California? No, actually. We're really strong in Southern California. The East Coast is great. And the Southeast is great. England is great. Northern Europe is great. We're pretty well spread out. It's pretty even. Hey Dan, is there any news from Puerto Rico that I missed? I didn't really spill the beans a whole lot, other than the trip went really, really, really well. So what I'm hoping is, regarding Puerto Rico, I'm going to shut down. God, answer the phone. Jesus. It's really annoying. Now my cable's caught on something. As soon as the phone quits ringing, I'll talk. Oh, that's annoying. That's really, really annoying. Yeah, it's the Elliott Tone Master I was just playing there. It's an aggressive guitar. Those are P90s, but they're pretty strong. You can get that glassy P90 clean sound if you roll the volume back, though. It works great. So the Puerto Rican trip went fantastic. So I can't tell a lot of details now, but I'm hoping to have a great announcement next year. It's really all I can say. Unfortunately, it's very hard for me not to tell you what happened. But it was a fantastic start. That's it. You know, can't count any chickens before they hatch. Did I see any hot PR ladies? Well, of course I did. So that'll be good news for all of us. Everyone in the amp business, especially. Not just 65, but no, I'm not going to move to Puerto Rico. The music business is here. Thank you, Dirty 59. I appreciate that. Oh, this is a good question here. Rock and Roll Willie says, Dan, you mentioned it will break in and warm up. Which particular parts break in with time? Most notably the transformers. If you have hand wound transformers, they need a long break-in period, more so than machine wound. And the coupling caps. The coupling caps are all a little crispy when they're brand new. And you know, you don't even have to play to break in your coupling caps. Just leave your amp on overnight and it'll warm them up a lot. So when we're designing stuff and when we're selling stuff, we always break them in thoroughly so that we know what you get is what we want it to be. So when you're designing things, you have to design with a little more treble in it than you think it's going to need, knowing that, you know, the initial break-in period is going to warm it up some, but then a year from now, that treble is going to subside a little bit. So these amps, if you heard them without being broken in, would probably scare you. They would be very bright. And a lot of guys do that. You know, they just put an amp together and send it out. So you go home and play it. It's nice. And then a year later, it sounds kind of brown. It's kind of dulled out because they didn't accommodate in their design for the break-in. So yeah, anyway, back to tubes. Man, I feel really, really good about the trip. As I said, I need to be very careful about what I mention and don't mention. Yeah, David, we can talk about it offline. Yeah, I'm just checking into options for doing things. Bill Studio says, I know you mentioned that with the master voltage turned down, the tubes last longer. How about my conventional amp? If you play it on very low volume, does it extend the tube life? Nope. Nope. Not at all. That full voltage is on there. You know, if you have a grid biased amp, it'll wear out slower than with a cathode biased amp. The amp's actually wide open when you're not playing. It's kind of hard to explain, but take my word for it. You know, you really got to turn the voltage is the same on the tubes no matter what the volume of your amp is. It's the amount of electricity going through it that changes when you're playing. The voltage stays constant. You know, it fluctuates a little bit, but it's not dramatic. If that makes sense. But anyway, regarding my trip to Puerto Rico, if all goes well and get some financing and all those things, if any of you private capital guys or venture capital guys are watching, give me a call. I think I have a way to make you very rich. So on that note, I am starving. It's 2 p.m. here, and I'm hungry. I haven't had breakfast. I'm glad the chat window finally came up so we could interact, and it's always such a pleasure to be with you guys. And I thank you very, very much for being here and your time, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Doc Electric, Oh, thank you, man. Jeez, this is my pleasure. I'm so honored that you guys come here and talk to me. It's quite a nice thing. I feel very special. So if I want to play for 5 hours straight, break out the producer, I will miss the show. Yeah, I'll have it up on YouTube soon. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Frank. Rock and Roll Willie, thank you, buddy. FS75, always good to see you. Bye, and thanks again. Thank you, Goofy65. Fonzarelli says, great show today. Enjoyed the Facebook pic. It was nice you could put a face to my name. Yes, yeah, I'm a legend. Stop it. That's not true. 5 p.m. here. Great long show. Yeah, this was a 2-hour one. It's getting kind of out of hand. I had to make up for not being here last week, I guess. Take care, Joe. You too, buddy. And I'm gonna sign off. And I will happily see you next Wednesday. Cheers, Tora. Look forward to the next show. Keep rocking 2 hours. Dedication, baby. It's fun. I'd do it all day if there was an audience. We held a really good audience. I'm looking at the numbers on the console here. We held a great audience today. It was really good. So anyway, thank you very much, fellas. And I will see you next week. Probably with this amp, maybe. I'm not sure. David's out of town for a couple of weeks, so I might just keep breaking it in. And Lash Hovard, if you're still on, we need to talk. Where are you? I need to get you an amp. Anyway, sincere thanks again, guys. And we will talk very soon. Bye-bye.